You're saying they're about to turn violent?
If you would have told me months ago, I would spend most of my November playing The Outer Worlds 2 instead of all the other numerous games that had come out, I couldn't believe you. After Avowed, I dismissed Obsidian being a competent developer. Sure, they can release games in a timely manner, but that means nothing when your games are mid. And I still believe that. But The Outer Worlds 2 far exceeded my expectations. I never played the first one, and now I definitely want to try it. But why is the second game so good? Well, The Outer Worlds 2 has to step into the role of an agent from the Earth Directorate, an organization that mediates between Earth and the space colonies across the galaxy. That is, until a mission to take down one of those colonies ends in betrayal. With the colony destroyed, you miraculously survive, but 10 years later, you find yourself in a galaxy known as Arcadia, where an all-out war has raged between three factions. The Order, who are a bunch of nerds who believe Arcadia's only hope is a grand plan, the Protectorate, who rule with an iron fist and primate any and all critical thinking to only serve them, and Auntie's Choice, whose only ideals are to make as much money as possible. All three have their own goals, and it's up to you to mediate between them in any way you choose. While that's going on, your backstabber is still alive, and so it's your responsibility to stop them from carrying out whatever devious plan they're scheming. The first big problem I ran into is past the intro mission, the world building, like the power struggle and the colonies being in a war, feels slow and you don't feel it till the second half. And the game lore dumps you with information that's largely relevant but at the point of being irrelevant because it's jargon. You never saw the events take place, like Spencer's becoming aunties or the war that had taken shape. And after the prologue, you have no reason to care, as the forefront mission is getting revenge. Why should we interfere in the war? There's never a reason, and the war itself feels light. I wish the game went darker with this theme, as outside of one particular area, you never actually see how bad it is or what it had done to the masses. Instead, the war in this aspect feels secondary to our primary goal of revenge. Sure, in one area it's bad, but it's irrelevant at every other point. I doubt the devs wanted to go darker, but I feel like it could have created for a stronger and more compelling narrative. Though, I don't think we would have gotten the same incredibly charming game with all the funny scenarios.
Striking? You're saying they're about to turn violent?
Yes, well, if they're this delusional, violence is the next natural step. Who do they intend to strike? Us?
Dear law, what a bunch of devious, ungrateful, greedy little prigs! After all the opportunities Auntie's given them to repay us like this? I'm so disappointed.
The characters you meet across Arcadia are so strange and vibrant with so much packed to them. So when the game does have these captivating moments, it's strange because when I find a story to be compelling, it then drops the ball by having unserious dialogue prompts that change the entire vibe. And it takes me out of the moment, especially when I am compelled by the openness the character is outpouring. I would have preferred if the game restricted itself to not always having witty prompts at every turn, but the choices are largely on you. You dictate how you play. Are you going to be the ruthless leader who will do anything to get the job done, or the charismatic sort who wants everyone to get along? The sheer amount of choice and how it refers back into the story later, even in a side story, is amazing, and the amount of depth that's gone into it is honestly incredible. That said though, I did find the first half of the game to be more interesting than the later half, as by then it felt more typical in what was going to happen and how those revelations were to occur. It didn't feel as personal as I would have liked. It got better, but not by much. And personally, by the second half, I never had a reason to care, as it had no relevance to me. The plot never felt organic, it felt forced and unoriginal. Which is unfortunate because there is a very interesting storyline just told from a faction that you can't join because Obsidian lost money, and that's a story told as a tale of time. The faction I'm talking about is the Protectorate. Through the Protectorate, you can find audio logs that I wish was the story. I can't get into it, spoilers obviously, but it has to do with the leader, the Sovereign. Through those audio logs, the plot would have been heartfelt and difficult and would have been more relevant and personal to us the player, and it would have created an organic reasoning for the second half of what we have now. but as it stands, the actual story is mid. This war has nothing to do with you or I, even after the game tries to make this case. I genuinely kept thinking to myself, why should I care all throughout the second half? I hope if there's a DLC or a third game, they really take that Protectorate subplot and push it to the forefront with less satire and keep a grounded tone. But that's just me. Also, this is a small thing, but a big one. I really wish Obsidian would have more interactive cutscenes when having conversations with people instead of just static head movements. I get that that's their way to have a faster pipeline, but I don't really like it because it gets kind of boring. Anyways, with that, the story is getting a 6 out of 10. I wish it was a bit more serious in tone, but for what it brings, it's fine. I don't actually care for the story. I like the choices that you can do while in the story, but I think the actual story itself on its own is kind of ass. And with that, the gameplay is vast with thought. Like other RPGs, you put your points into the skills you want to roleplay as, but unlike other RPGs, the ways in which you can approach a problem based on your skills and background is astounding. Even if you think there's only one way to tackle an area, there's probably more options you never even noticed or can access. There is so much stacked to abide to your skills, it's incredibly vast. Like, for example, hidden rooms might be somewhere that you can only find if you have the ability to observe. But if you have the speed skill, you have to take a whole different path to reach the same goal. The idea that I can miss content because I didn't place points into certain skills makes the game that much more exciting and fresh every time I go back to it. Adding to this, there are hidden mechanics. One of which is, unbeknownst to you, the game has been keeping track of all your actions and will reprimand you by triggering a flaw. Flaws being a mix of buff and debuffs that arise from patterns of behavior. Once accepted, these flaws become permanent changes throughout the game, and they can change up the experience in unpredictable ways. Eventually, this caught up with me when the game gave me the kleptomaniac flaw, where I would automatically steal nearby objects, but with the benefit being anything stolen, selling for significantly more. I do love that, but wish flaws could also be reversed, since a few can really lock you into drawbacks you didn't intend. But as it stands, it did make the gameplay feel fresh, and it's something I've never experienced in any other game. That said, while there's a decent variety of skills, you're capped to level 30, and there's no way to respec. So once you're past that level cap, you can't progress any further, which I don't get. If you're like me and want to spend points across a few different skills to try out different aspects, it feels unnecessarily restrictive. It also begs the question as to why should I do the extra quest or fight in battles when I could just run away if there's no XP to gain, or any way to keep me engaged. And that leads me to my next point. Combat starts to feel repetitive. You'll often come across the same enemies with no variety, and the environments where you fight are uninteresting. But the bigger problem is the combat never changes. While you can add to your skills and perks, you don't actually gain any new equipment to change the way combat flows. And after a while, it becomes mind-numbing as every encounter starts to feel the same. I would prefer if the game had abilities for movement, like let us double jump, let us triple jump, let us dual wield weapons. Just basic stuff like that could have made the gameplay way more fun. You do gain equipment, but they're for very particular scenarios. Another way to counter that could have been to offer more unique and creative guns, but there's nothing especially interesting about the ones you gain. You can modify them, but only in the most basic ways. Even the unique weapons are tweaked versions of existing ones. They're still fun, but nothing exciting. That being said, I really did like the combat. The guns flowed well, they felt well, the gun sounds, dude, the sounds are incredible. Whoever came up with the sound effects for these guns, chef kiss, is so well done. And the type of guns you actually do gain are fun, it's just that over the course of time they can get repetitive. Although what I really disliked about this game and the reason why I had to drop it down to story difficulty is enemies are too bullet spongy for me. I don't like it. Anyway, expanding on my points about the environments, I do love how Obsidian chose open zones over open world. It lets them focus on key areas. This makes the worlds you visit feel alive while letting you imagine what the whole planet may be like. That said, unless you're in a building or town, the rest of the area is empty space, which sucks. Instead, aspects like quests are usually found in hub zones and not while you're exploring. There are almost no dynamic quests. This sucks, as it makes the exploration feel pointless. The only point to get somewhere is because the objective marker told you so. Having said that, exploration is still fun. Worlds you visit are rich with great art, diverse landscapes, and deep politics. My biggest issue is the lack of organic events that could have occurred with how much character each world seemed to have. On top of that, I really don't get the factions as a gameplay mechanic. Sure, you can win their favor so you can do certain quests with them or to have more influence with them, but those are story mechanics. Actual game mechanics don't exist. It would be better if they had exclusive items or shops that you could access only through them. As it is right now, the only benefit is discounts on items, but that's not enough when everyone sells the same stuff. For me, I personally would have preferred if the game had something more akin to mini games, like if who you side with then gets to control that planet or a portion of that planet. But in truth, the game just has a big problem when it comes to distinctifying the factions. But something that would persuade me? Oh, baby's the radio. I didn't even know there was a radio in this game until like the end. When I was looking through the sub menus, I was like, oh shit, there's an actual radio in this game. All three factions have their own stations with some original bangers that add to the political climate of Arcadia, from saturation to unionization to equations. But the way the radio is implemented is awful, as again is hidden within a submenu. Why isn't it at the forefront? Thinking about Fallout, they make it a big point. As soon as you pull up the Pip-Boy, you see radio. You click on radio. In this game, why is it hidden? But this is what I want Bethesda to invest in. When it comes to Fallout, I love the world, but are you seriously going to tell me no original music would have been created between the nuke and then? I hope Obsidian lights the fire underneath Bethesda and they take notes. And when it comes to taking notes, I hope Obsidian start taking notes, because I love customizing my character in any RPG. So I don't get why Obsidian, who have been doing this for so long now, are still missing basic shit. Like, why are the clothes a single piece instead of separated pieces? I want to mix and match. Why is there no transmog? If you're doing modular, it shouldn't be that hard. And seriously, why is the customization so limited? I can change my face but not my body? Why? And after the initial customization, it's not possible to change it? What are you talking about? How is there no plastic surgery in this universe? And for the second game, let me customize my companions. I want to drip them out. Why have all these costumes if I can't dab them up? And that should show how much better the companions are when compared to Avowed. But the Outer Worlds have companions who will leave if you ask them to, and will leave on their own if you disagree with them too much. But also, Niles, your first companion, alone is such a better character than any of these mans from Avowed. He undergoes through a lot of growth between the events that take place, and was there when you were betrayed, so having someone who shares your plight for revenge is more compelling than any of those jobbers. And as you travel from planet to planet, you'll encounter other companions who have their own goals that align with yours, each one having their own unique quests and backstories that make them compelling. But what I absolutely love is how you can shape them to your needs. You can help them become their best selves, or you can break them down into the worst. And those choices will be reflected in their dialogue and actions, which I absolutely love, as it leads to far more unique choices only found when they are shaped to your whim. And at times on the ship, you'll find them bickering amongst themselves, so when you take them out, they might have interesting dialogue specifically to them. I often find myself torn as to who to bring along, since each of them might have fun conversations. However, for the most part, they tend to stand around with nothing to say. And it does annoy me as more should be done with them as a team. What I love about team-oriented games like Expedition, Final Fantasy or Xenoblade is the interactions between all the team members. It makes them feel alive. Why have a ship if there's nothing to do on it? There should be fun little moments that can only happen on it, like random quests between team members. Let mini games take place here. Copy Persona's social links. Make it feel like I'm traveling with a group of friends and not just strangers. And that's it. I had a lot more to share, but I think The Outer Worlds 2 getting a 7 out of 10 is fair. While I love my time with it, there's too much missing to give it a higher rating. I do hope the third game can have combat be more dynamic along with the quest and the missions and more. But that's it for me. Take care and see ya.